Okay. Meena?
I welcome to all of you for this invited speech today. Today's speakers are known to all of us because of they have created their space in the society through their work. So it is only formality for me to introduce today's speaker, and it gives me immense pleasure to introduce today's first speaker, Sabha Naqvi. Sabha Naqvi is an author, journalist, and commentator. She is one of the India's best known political analysts. She has published 3 books. First, In Good Faith, published in 2012, which is on the chronicles of 2 years long journey across the India in search of syncretic traditions and pluralist communities. The next book is about her Capital Conquest, which is about the emergence of app. And third book is on the shades of saffron, which is on the journey of Vajpayee to Modi. And recent book is on the politics of Jugaad, which is on the coalition in India. She is the former political editor of Outlook magazine, and Sabha writes column in a leading national dailies and websites. She is also an election analyst on a television. Sabha has been a Reuters Fellow of Oxford University and a Jefferson Fellow at the East-West Center of Hawaii. She has been selected for the Asian Leadership Fellow Award given by the Japanese Foundation at Tokyo and the US State Department's Fellowship for the leading professionals from across the world. So as I talked earlier that she is a well-known and renowned journalist. So without wasting much time, I invite Sabha Naqvi for her speech.
Thank you so much. I always get very embarrassed because all of you go and find these CVs somewhere in the internet space, and then, all I am is I'm a journalist, which means that it's my job to ask questions and to chronicle the stories of other people. However, at one stage of my life, I did travel for 2 years, traveled all across India, which I was writing columns in the Indian Express, but eventually it would come out in a book that I call that is titled In Good Faith. I'm very, very pleased to be with all of you here because one of the most important translations of the book is in Marathi. And I'm very, very pleased about that because not only has it been translated into Marathi, I've got good feedback from, through the translator, so on and so forth. And I had come to Pune for the launch of the Marathi edition. So I'm very, very happy to be here. So what is In Good Faith about? Is it about an idealism, about something unreal which doesn't exist anymore? I feel like that sometimes because my main job is to cover national politics, which is run with language which is very, very divisive. I myself have been the target of online campaigns, and I've even faced some cases. But that is not the story here. But I am never my own story. But we are, as I speak to you right now, we do have a culture of hate speech, which has gained acceptability and so on, so forth in India. Yet, the idea is, and this is something that I learned from my own father, because he has always talked about these themes, and he spoke to you earlier about Afghanistan. So it was actually, when I did this work, it was not that I argue with him all the time. So it's not that I was, but I really felt that what he talked about needed to be fleshed out. Does it exist? Do we have syncretism on the ground? Or is it just a myth, And very often he would talk about it in terms of higher civilizational things, such as poetry and classical traditions, which are not accessible to the common people. So I wanted to know whether it is more at the popular level of religion. So within the family, we had different dimensions of getting into it. Because my father can always tell you the highest form of Urdu poetry, and he's brilliant with that. And I think Vineet Tiwari is nodding his head. But it is still cultures, traditions, and which are accessible to a limited strata of society. My main engagement with this book was to see, is it part of popular cultures? And yes, we have the great religious traditions in India, without a doubt. We have that, but within them survive many popular folk little traditions, which is what I found in the course of these travels, and which is what has always remained with me. Even at a time when the world is looking at India as increasingly being a Hinduized nation state, even though people are aware that it has one of the world's largest Muslim populations, it is fascinating to find that there are within this country some such fascinating people, such as those who are both Hindu and Muslim. So again, like I say, I cannot tell you the high poetry or even the high classical traditions. I will tell you just about people who I met on the ground. Some of the most startling things came out of the state of West Bengal. In Maharashtra, I found many shrines which had a joint history, but they were also contested spaces. So let us say that at the time that I was doing my research, there was a history of participation. There was a popular saint-like figure venerated often by both Hindus and Muslims. Yet very often the Muslims would abandon that tradition as they became more conscious of what is the correct form of Islam as opposed to the other form of Islam. Even as members of the Hindu society would claim those traditions as their own. And this also certainly applies to the tradition of Satya Sai Baba, not Satya Sai Baba, Shirdi Sai Baba, who is, because he was supposed to be a Muslim fakir, but he is today universally, there is a chapter on him in my book also, how the Sai Baba tradition is propped up by many people who are believers in the narrative of the Hindu Rashtra. Even though this is a Muslim fakir, how it was slowly abandoned by Muslims who were, there were other shrines in Maharashtra that I had found when I had done this field work, where again the same process was underway. There would be a joint ownership of a shrine, and shrines also become places of contestations for their wealth and popularity. Everybody wants to be in on it. Let's beyond faith, beyond beyond all these things. So there was a pushing back of the Muslim community, and very often the Hindu community took over. Often there was political linkages, but let's not go there. Let's talk about. So all of this was happening when I traveled around in Maharashtra. So, but this contested spaces, and all these contested spaces were spaces that were supposed to have powers of magical faith. I pray there and something will come to me. मैं वहां दुआ करूंगी तो कुछ मुझे मिल जाएगा. मन्नत मानने का जो ट्रेडिशन होता है, ये सब था उन जगहों में. लेकिन ये छोड़ के मैं हिंदी, अच्छा अंग्रेजी, I will revert to English. Leaving that aside, let me go and tell you about some amazing things that I find in the state of Bengal. In Bengal, there is a tradition which has been there called the Patachitra tradition. Patachitra, Bengal, it is there in Bengal, it is there in Odisha. In Odisha, it is a fairly classical, it is a more Hinduized tradition. In Bengal, the so-called Patachitra paintings, which are scrolls, जो जैसे लोग खोलते हैं वैसे वो गाना गाते हैं उनके बारे में, और वो मतलब कथाएं बताते हैं. So they tell the stories of popular folk divinities, legends. Bengal में, in Bengal, the Shakti figures are very popular. I think Narayan Dev, they have their own gods and goddesses and so on and so forth. So the Patachitra paintings would be these patuas. They were called patuas, who would put them in their bags and they would travel at one point from village to village, opening the scroll and telling the story, and in a song-like form. But naturally the tradition, with everybody having, over the time, first television, then cell phone, and all the ways of entertainments have also been challenged. But so while I was researching it, I went to one particular district, village in a district called Medinapur, which was the name should be there in my book. But the point is that, anyway, I'll find it. It was a small village of Patachitra painters. They all said that they were Muslims, but they were also Hindus. They said their real name was Muslim, but their professional name was Hindu. And so you had this entire community of Muslim artists who were singing, painting about Hindu divinities, and who also took on Hindu names. You know, Rahima would be Rupa. Osman would have a Hindu name. I just remember this was some time ago. So you had this kind of identity which didn't belong to any complete sort of a tradition. You had that with the Patachitra painters. And they were a very, very fascinating kind of community, because actually the Muslim orthodoxy also would not marry with them, would not have intermarriage, so on and so forth. And neither did they belong to mainstream Hindu society. So that was one example. Then within Bengal, because so all of these are actually stories which can be put in a tradition, which can be located, I think, by academics and sociologists as a sort of the process of conversion. You know, how much of your original faith do you carry with it? In Bengal, you find a lot of evidence of the Hindu facets of so-called Hindu, quote unquote, facets of Islam. You find a lot of that still there in Bengal. And so the other tradition, which is very alive even now, is it really takes time to go there from Calcutta, is you go to the jungles of Sundarbans, and they have something called a Muslim goddess. So I mean, Islam is against idol worship, but in the Sundarbans forest, which is tiger infested, where life is very hard, you have a Muslim goddess called Bon Bibi. Bon is the forest, so Ban ki Bibi, Bon Bibi, whose image, everything is like one of the Shakti figures popular in Bengal. It is in makeshift places all over, and people worship her before they go into the forest, be they Hindu or Muslim. That area has a mixed population. It's a very poor population. People enter forests of man-eating tigers. All the Sundarban tigers are known to be man-eaters. God knows, because it's a very fascinating geographical area, because you have these mangrove. It's the largest mangrove forest in the world, at a point when the Ganges is entering into the ocean. The Sundarbans is divided between India and Bangladesh. It's sort of little islands, little tributaries. You have a village called Bagher Vidwa Gram, meaning Baag ki Vidwaon ka gram, jinko sher ne kha liya, unki Vidwaon ka. You'll see people on the edge of the forest collecting little crabs and fish, standing for hours immersed in water. It is poor. In that stark beauty lies great poverty. And there is a need to worship these magical figures, to pray for survival, to pray against the elements, to pray against the tiger, to pray against the storms, to pray against, just to survive into the next day. So there you'll find something called a Muslim goddess. So all of this exists within this country, from the joint shrines of the state of Maharashtra, from the magical figures of holy men who have become popular in your state, who are now pan-Indian figures. All of that has emerged in the Indian landscape. And then we can move on to Rajasthan, where you have these communities who are musicians, the Manganyar singers, who are again Muslims, but they're intricately linked to the cycle of life ceremonies in Hindu families. They perform in Hindu families at births, weddings, so on and so forth. And some of their music is about Hindu traditions. And so there are, it's like an endless world out there, and of these little things. But the larger question is does it all add up to anything which challenges the big casting of tradition? I don't have an answer to that. And I don't think in some ways that is even a correct question. Because even when we talk about a great Hindu identity, when we see actual politics, when we see how people split apart into castes, into clans, into communities, you will that great identity is not. There are so many dimensions to every Indian's identity. So people, when I did this work and when I did this book, there were many friends of mine who challenged me and who said, "Ye composite culture does not exist." That it doesn't have any meaning against the larger tide of history. So, I mean, I didn't argue because there's a point of view, and I was never very certain whether I was just chronicling interesting details and putting it together. One of the people who really wanted me to do this, who was a huge encouraging factor, you must put it out into a book, was this Professor Ashish Nandi, because he had read those articles. And he said, you need to put it into a book, just so that it's there. These little ground traditions. And I've just spoken to you about some of the better known traditions. In the book are some very obscure, stories about cattle fairs, which involve both communities. There are all sorts of little things. Some of them are being erased, some of them are being divided, but some of them do indeed survive. So, and then to revert back to the classical traditions of, I was looking at just the popular folk traditions, folk forms of worship, folk forms of music, folk living, the joint worship in particular shrines, and so on and so forth. But there is the Hindustani classical music tradition, for instance, is nothing but the union. It cannot exist without the union of Hindu and Muslim, the Garanas, the Ustads, so on and so forth. And lately, a town of Kerana has been in the news, but Kerana in Uttar Pradesh, but it's also the town which gives the name to the greatest, arguably the greatest gharana of Hindustani classical music, because the founder of that town, a Muslim, leaves Kerana and goes to the court of the Gaikwads of Baroda, where he then falls in love with a member of the family, and they elope and they go to Bombay, and they produce these children who are such accomplished musicians. And then one of his students ends up being the teacher of Bhimsen Joshi and Gangubai Hangar. So the Kerana Gharana, which travels out of Uttar Pradesh, comes to Maharashtra and to the Hubli Dharwad part of Karnataka, where it thrives. And at the foundation is a Muslim Ustad with a colorful life and a colorful journey, where he migrates over India and so on and so forth. So our whole traditions, everything is enmeshed with these kind of historical interactions. And I will just rest my case and just look for comments from all of you, or if it's too quick, Kumar sir can take my time. Anyone can do it, Thank you very much.
May I request to Kumar Ketkar Sarji to say something for the further discussion on this topic?
So please unmute.
Well, I don't have to add much because Sabha has briefly but eloquently stated the syncretic culture and the faith, which has so many dimensions. Only thing is, as she has explained, in Maharashtra, majority of the dargahs in Maharashtra are actually worshipped by the Hindus. Many of the churches, particularly the famous church in Mumbai, Mount Mary, it is more attended by Hindus than Christians.
Yeah.
And even Afzal Khan's Dargah is also attended by Hindus. So on the one hand, we find there was actually a movement, there was a march to kind of uproot Afzal Khan's Dargah, but it did not get much traction, and people continue. So, and perhaps I think all of you know, or some of you know, that Anthropological Survey of India, ASI, has published something like 70 or 72 volumes, and in which they have described enormous mixing up of culture, huge. Today, Robina Thapa spoke about it. Enormous, actually, so many churches in Kerala, so many temples in Tamil Nadu, and so many. On the one hand, we talk about Sabrimala and we talk about Ayodhya, but on the other hand, there are so many temples, so many dargahs, so many churches, so many gurudwaras are actually the reflection of coming together of all the people, irrespective of their religion, and even often irrespective of the caste. So, on the one hand, we find so much of divisiveness, so much polarization, but at the ground level, there is tremendous. For instance, in Mumbai, Muharram is celebrated by Hindus also. And in Dogri area, Ganeshotsav is celebrated by Muslims. So, and yet we find the Hindu-Muslim tension often is generated more politically and more for political power than for actually defining the sociological distinction of cultures. So I think that disappeared to a great extent during first phase of Gandhiji's movement. But again, it picked up with the partition. And today, Urvashi Bhuttarayaji brilliantly explained through the stories of how the division among the people does not necessarily affect their essential sentimental unity or emotional integration. And I think we have to strengthen that emotional integration instead of going into intellectual and political disintegration. So I think Sabha is absolutely right in explaining to the audience here about the syncretic and genuine nature of the faith. Genuine nature of the faith does not distinguish.
Yeah. Thank you.
Vineet would like
Thank
to
you.
add something.
Yes, yes, Meg.
Unmute.
So, hello everybody, and thanks Sabha for making a brilliant and brief presentation. I was just thinking in terms of what you said, that the syncretic traditions from below, we can say, like Paul Cox, the sociologist, has named it the social movements from below and social movements from above. So in that sense, if we see the syncretic traditions from below, I find the recent examples in the textile mill workers unions and textile mill workers functioning. Earlier, it was not only the Hindu and Muslim kind of thing, but also the caste barriers. They also started breaking up. What we hear from the days of 1920, when Dange and Ambedkar were, on the caste question, they were against each other. And later on, I personally witnessed that later on, the caste divide started getting slowly. It was not so sharp. Because the workers had to come and work on those in those mills on the same and weaving and everything. So they used to earlier. They didn't like to work on the machine which was used earlier by any of the Dalit fellow. But later, slowly they started dealing with this, and then they began kind of class camaraderie. So that is one thing, and it also reminded me that the stories and the same is almost in entire India, that these majars and shrines, and we used to go there not as Hindu or somebody, but out of curiosity also and out of celebration. In the same way as Tazia used to come out in northern India. So we used to go to the churches, we used to go to the mazars and everywhere. So in the same way, Diwali was celebrated by many of the Muslim fellows. So it reminded me of three of the stories. And I recently came across that because we are planning to work on a play. This story is written by a woman, Lalitambika Antarjanam. She was a Malayali writer, very learned author. And I think she also received the Sahitya Academy at that time. She died in 1977. But in 1972, she wrote a story called Dhirendu Majumdar's Mother. And Dhirendu Majumdar's mother, she took birth in earlier India. Then it was, then Bangladesh, sorry, the East Pakistan was made. So she became a citizen of East Pakistan. Then again, Bangladesh was made. So she became a citizen of Bangladesh. And then she comes back to India as a refugee. And then she addresses the Indira Gandhi and asks whether I am the refugee in my own land. So that story, another story of Razia Sajjad Zahir, who wrote this Namak, Lahori Namak. So a woman, Hindu woman who has come from Lahore and now she is staying in India here, and somebody is going to visit Lahore. So she asks to bring some namak from Lahore, some salt, Lahori salt. And that's a beautiful story. And the third one which comes to my mind is Khwaja Ahmad Abbas' memoir, because his mother was his mother died there in Pakistan, and she was buried there. So when he visited Pakistan, and he said something which annoyed the Pakistani rulers. So Abbas was not allowed to enter again in the Pakistan. So he said that, look, whatever you may become, but 5 feet land in Pakistan will always be mine because my mother lies here. So I mean, these kind of things which have not supernatural kind of any the basic things which brings, if you see, actually the communal tensions also, they lately entered the working class colonies. They entered first in the upper class, middle class colonies. At least in my, I also with Asghar Ali engineer, I made several fact findings, and we found that in the working class area, there was a kind of harmony which was in a way necessary for them to survive. So they, for their day-to-day life, it was necessary for them to keep the life non-communal. So I just wanted to add to your.
Yeah. So I'll just say one thing here also. These are all very interesting, and but these syncretic traditions on the ground. So a lot of them come from Muslim fakirs and so on, and Muslim shrines. But there is certainly a move where the Muslims, Kumar Sir pointed out that the dargahs and all are very popular with Hindus, which is, well, Haji Ali is not. I've been there. It's, a lot of Muslims go there in Mumbai. But there is also a structured thing within of abandoning certain places within Muslims. There is a movement, this is not pure Islam, this is impure Islam, so on and so forth. You know, ये सही तरीका नहीं है, ऐसे नहीं होते, वो भी है. लेकिन फिर भी Ajmer Sharif will have huge crowds. You will still have, I think Haji Ali in Mumbai has huge crowds, even though you can hardly call them very progressive because they don't allow women beyond a certain point. But yes, but it is a form of worship where the religious identity breaks down. You know, you will find that. And I find around Nizamuddin Dargah, next to which in that area is also the headquarters of the Tablighi Jamaat, which got so much attention last year. They have all become more Muslim spaces than they used to be. You used to see more, you know, in the part of Delhi where I live is a very, very important dargah of the Shishti Silsila. I live in Mehroli near the Qutub Minar of the Bakhtiyar Kaki Dargah. Now, in the same lane is a Jain Mandir, which is a very important Jain Mandir. I live on the Jain Mandir road, and off me the gully goes to the Bakhtiyar Kaki. The Jain Mandir road is a wide road. It is always done. The Dargah road is full of drains. It is a Dargah which the government patronizes because they do one sort of common Phool Waro ki Sair kind of tradition, which is a Sarkari tradition, where they take, where they do something, they go to one mandir and they come to the Dargah. But the Dargah is completely, it's an area where the drains are not fixed, nothing. So I think in some of this, you will, you cannot separate some of these traditions from the state of communities, from the ghettoization, from where you live, where people live. How can the Bakhtiyar Kaki Dargah, which is a Dargah, which is the one of the important Dargah in the most important Sufi silsila of South Asia, be in the condition in which it is in Delhi? Or the road leading up to it, and just you turn the corner and you see the Jain Mandir road. It is routinely metalled up. It is routinely taken care of. They're both like this. One is here Jain Mandir road, Bakhtiyar Kaki Dargah. Just take a look. And these places become inaccessible slowly, even if people of all faiths used to come there. I think they become so ghettoized with Muslims only that Hindus will less so come there now.
Yeah, but Sabha, only one point. Sabha, only one point. Despite such huge massacre that took place at the time of partition of Hindus as well as of Muslims, so many people killed, so many maimed, so many were houseless. And yet, immediately after that, after the 1952 election, we did not see the kind of hate and hostility that we see now. It got quickly integrated and to a certain extent united till I think the Rath Yatra movement began in 1987-88.
Yes.
Till that time, by and large, there were riots. Of course, there were riots in Muzaffarnagar, there were riots in Bhiwandi, there were riots in Calcutta, there were riots. But they were not actually dividing the entire society or entire country as it is happening now. So what you say is correct, that certain identities remain with certain localities and certain centers of faith. But by and large, after 1952, most of the wounds were to a great extent healed despite so much killing and despite so much deprivation. So we must actually, that's a dialectical process. That on the one hand, we find total division and destruction. On the other hand, we find coming together and to a sort of emotional construction. So that dialectics is there. But recently, in last about 10 years or so, that dialectics is disappearing and leading to catastrophic destruction. That is, so we have to remind people of the period earlier. Otherwise, Tilak was defended by Jinnah. Jinnah and Tilak were friends. Nobody talks about that.
Actually, I have a question for all of you because what is the mindset in Maharashtra? Because, now that you have a different, because in the North India, it's still, that is the direction that politics has taken. So is it still of political purpose to fan all these things in the state of Maharashtra?
Could you imagine 4 years ago, Shiv Sena and Congress coming together?
That's why. In that context that I ask you this question.
So, things are in flux.
In flux, huh? But is it like the Hindi belt now in terms of, Vinit is coming from the state which is, it is trying to beat UP at its, it's
so Bollywood and cricket.
Me too.
Bollywood and cricket.
Huh?
Sabha, Bollywood and cricket are the most uniting forces than politics and
I
other
agree.
movements.
When we
Sabha, there was a. Sorry,
Yes,
can I
Yes,
just
yes,
say
please.
I'm just thinking about the identity of those people who have both identities from Bengal. I think that village's name is Nyaya village from East Midnapur. I also wrote in the comment box, which Sabha was mentioning. So if if they have two identities, one is their original identity, one is their trade identity. So similarly, something happened over here in Indore town of Madhya Pradesh, that a person who used to sell churis,
Yes.
and he had a Hindu name, and he had two Aadhaar cards. One is with Muslim identity, one is with Hindu identity. He was caught and put in jail for more than 3 months, and there
Because
was
he had
nobody to listen
two.
to him.
Yeah, I know. I remember that footage.
So what happens that I remember that once upon a time I visited some town when I was a small child. I visited some town of Uttar Pradesh. My parents took me there, and there was a temple, a small temple, and there was a mazar side by side. And we visited both the places, and we were happy that see how people are living together happily. And that was the time, early 80s or late 70s. But later on, all these places of happiness or the syncretic culture, they all became. So, I mean, we can talk
Yeah, they
about the
became
syncretic things,
contested.
but
Yeah.
ultimately, this is politics which divides people for their own interest. And these are the same places which can be used, as Kumar Ketkarji is telling, that we can use such old past stories to bring people together. But no, people want to divide. I mean, they are not interested to know about Jinnah and Tilak's friendship. Even after telling them, even after showing them the documents, they'll continue celebrating Nathuram Godse and Savarkar. So this is a very difficult time we are passing through.
Absolutely. Yeah.
When we organized our session, that time we have divided our session into part. First is invited speech and second one is open dialogue. And I think this whole session is become open dialogue now because of the experts are here like Sabha Naqviji, Kumar Ketkarji and Vinit Tiwari. They have done a truthful discussion, truthful and I say positive discussion on syncretic traditions and pluralist communities. And this is what I can say of our success of our today's sessions, because when we start it was as an invited speech and now we are closing on the truthful discussion on this topic. And I am thankful to Sabha Naqviji. I am also thankful to the Kumar Ketkar sir, and I am also thankful to the Vinit Tiwari for this discussion. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. My pleasure entirely. My pleasure. Yeah.
As second part of this session is open. We have the interviews of another one writer of Salma. In this session, the Salma Rajat Samsuddin is an Indian Tamil writer, activist, and politician, which is known by the Nom de Plum. And she is the member of Dravid Munnetra Kazagam, and she is involved in women's and transgender right activities. She is also served as a chairperson for the State Social Welfare Board of Tamil Nadu in between 2007 to 2011. She also she is also the founder of non-government women's right organization named Your Hope is Remaining. She wrote number of books, in which one book is on Sabam, which has also translated as The Curse Stories. Second book was translated in a name on Hindustan Times, translated in English. And third book she wrote is Woman Dreaming. And the second person who is interviewing Salma is the Sonali Navangul, which is our city-based author who has won the Sahitya Academy Award in 2020. Sonali Navangul has written 7 books till date in Marathi, and 4 of them are the translations, in which one is the translation of Salma's book, which is Madhyaratri's Nantar Se Tas, then Dream Runner, वर्धन रागाचे and वारसा प्रेमाचा. So she is taking the interview of Salma.
Yes. Hello, good evening. Good evening, all. We are here to welcome the renowned contemporary Tamil literary icon of India, Salma. Although Rajati Salma is her pen name and her actual name is Rukaiya, I would prefer to refer her as Salma today. She is the literary sensation not just in Tamil Nadu or in India, but across the world through translation of her novels and poems. She has authored 2 novels, 3 poetry collections, 1 short story book, and 1 anthology of essays. Salma's poetry and fiction carved a unique impression of everyday life in the confined domestic space and of the subject of still considered unqualified for any literary consideration in the minds of the readers of all genders. And it evokes a million feelings and creates an empathetic perspective towards it. Born in a small town in Trichy district, she spent her childhood in a conservative society. Against all odds, she emerged more and more strong. Her voice is the representative voice of the marginalized section. Salma, welcome. Should we begin?
Thank you, Sonali. Thank you for this
Yes.
opportunity discussing with our working and both are working same. No.
Yes. Yes, I'm beginning here. As a writer, Salma, you had or rather are going through difficult experiences. We have seen through ages that the conservative static elements in society don't accept alternative thought. Such forces find an easy way out of throttling progressive voices brutally. The same has happened with you. As an inevitable part of every woman's life, your poems have not excluded references of sanitary napkin, of sexual intimacies, of private body parts. The extremely conservative forces threatened you. Even rape threats was made against you. They made false charges against you. Moreover, you belong to such an age when the world is divided into 2 camps. How do you tackle such situations? Your fear, anger, depression. Can you please share your feelings with us, Salma?
Yes, the same. You're telling all the things. Not only me. We were 4 more poets in Tamil Nadu. 1990, we wrote a lot of poems about women desires and sexuality, about our body and everything. Me only started that kind of opened up that kind of writings.
Yes.
First, I started myself. Then after that, some poets they also started. Women poets started writing same kind of poems and writings. We faced a lot of criticism, and not only me, everyone is faced the same kind of threats and criticism. Vulgarly, they criticized us, and my problem is my society. Other women poets, they are coming from the Hindu families, the educated people, they were the poets, but I'm in a small village. I'm living with my family, my husband and mother-in-law, joint family. The community is patriarchal community. The society is very, we know about that situation. But I don't want to stop my writings. I faced a lot of criticism. Family also threatening me. They wanted to stop my writings. That time only I changed my name, pen name. I took my pen name, Salma. before I wrote my original name is Rajati.
Hmm.
My original name is Rajati. That is still Rajati is my original name. But that time only because of my family opposed, my husband opposed my writings. I don't want to write my own name. Then I changed my pen name. I took my pen name. Khalil Gibran poems on Salma is there. I impressed on the poem and the name. I took that name. I wrote my poems. Yes, all women writers, when they are starting something new about their body, everywhere the situation is same, I think. I my anger, fear, and depression are expressed in form of writings.
Yeah.
Continuously, I write. Whenever I feel weakened by the society, I write. Writing my feeling out and is still the best solution for me to tackle such emotional situations. Only writing. Still, I'm facing threatening, and every time I publish one story, the people are reacted bad things, but we could not stop them. But I could write. That is the
Wow.
yeah, solution.
This is the answer. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think of Simone de Beauvoir, the famous statement. Her famous statement was, "One is not born, rather becomes woman." Echoes in
Yes.
your writing all the time. From your childhood, you had been asked to obey the orthodox authority. You challenged it, rebelled against the marriage system, and thus decided to confine yourself to four walls of your home. After your puberty, you were forced to get married and then went through the hardship of your marriage. As a person who staunchly believes in the freedom, it must be agonizing. Do you think that such suppressing situations contributed to your creativity?
Yes, of course. When I was a child, Simone de Beauvoir is, yes, absolutely right. Women always getting a lot of advices from the society, from the family, from mom, from the father. Everybody is telling us, you should do this, you should not do this, like that. But we always created. Women always created by the society. Men not like that. They can they can born, they can live whatever they want.
Okay, but
By
you get
society,
stimulated.
yes, yes. Then that kind of life I had. But interestingly, I have I read a lot of books in libraries. That time I got different books, different thoughts from the books. Periyar, you know how much he wanted freedom for women, liberated them. In whole society in Tamil Nadu, whole women they are getting freedom because of Periyar thoughts. 2 3 years before, I watched a film, Telugu film, the Devadasi issues. That problem was 1978. It was in Calcutta. That film made that history. Okay, but our Tamil Nadu, we demolished that Devadasa system 1947 because of Periyar's thoughts. He wanted give freedom for women. I read lot of books, and I communicate with all the thoughts from him. My all my parents teach me, society teach me, you are women, you should do, you should not do, like that. But I freed myself. I get freedom myself. I wanted write all my emotions. That time I try to write, but not only suffered me. I'm suffering with this community. I didn't get education. I didn't go outside. I'm sitting inside of the home. It was such a horrible life I had in my uh, 9 years. I wasted my life inside the home. But a lot of women, I can see a lot of women, my sisters, my cousins, and every woman, they are also having same kind of life, facing same kind of problems. But I wanted share my thoughts. I wanted to write for them also, not only for me.
Mhm. Right.
I can observe everything. I write all the things. That's why my writings are so powerful, because of that. Everything I get it from the life, experience of them. Yes, I wrote.
Out of separation, you got the voice you have.
Yes, of course.
Okay,
I
okay.
wanted to write my all the depressors. I want all my experiences. And I can write. I did. Only I can do
O-
that only one time.
Okay, 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 okay. Salma, I feel not only curious, but rather odd that you, being a poet, a novelist, a politician, in last 2 decades, have this wonderful multifaceted life. I think your journey is on the path of the personal is political. But do these two roles, as a writer and as a politician, interfere one another in your daily life? Or do you feel that it puts constraints on you? Or do you think that one of these identities overpower the other? Will you please share with us your thoughts on this?
Yes, of course. As a writer, I'm a very free bird. We can write anything. I don't want to control myself. I can write anything, whatever I feel. But as a politician, I'm belonging with a party, mainstream
Hmm.
politician. That party have some kind of uh, law, uh, laws, some kind of things, the big one issue, maybe party have some kind of views. I
Mhm.
could not overtake that view. This
Mhm.
problem is there. Uh, Time also, when sometime I want to do something in my own work, my own attending some literary work, literary writing, workshop like that. But that time party announced one kind of protest somewhere. We have to go. We have to
Mhm.
give more preference for that matter.
Mhm.
But luckily, my party, I joined with the DMK. This
Mhm.
party is having um, maybe same wavelength. That
Mhm.
parties, that about the Periarism and Naism is there. My thoughts also same kind of things. And equality, social justice, everything is in the parties. Uh, that's why I don't feel bad in never. Uh, Working together, we are
Mhm.
not bad. But my time is always, uh, we have to spend a lot of time for field work. As a
Okay.
politician, we have to do for field. We have to meet
Mm.
people. We have to do a lot of work with the people. That kind of issues are there. But my writings never stopped. Never. Party is not interfere. Yeah, party leaders
Okay.
also were very progressive. No,
Yes.
Karnanidhi is there. He also progressive. Stalin also progressive as chief minister. I don't have any problem still.
Mhm.
We are working
Okay.
together. Yeah. Mm.
Okay. There is a documentary called Salma by Kim Longinetto that features you, and it has been published across the world via Amnesty International. In that documentary, you remark that, I quote, you don't
பார்ட்டி கொள்கைங்கிறது என்ன? பாலிசி மறந்துட்டேன்.
such an incredible statement, Salma. I can imagine that, like Socrates, how many cups of poison you might have gulped before coming to such an illuminating thought. How do you gather such patience? Can you tell us what you have achieved by walking on this conscious path?
Yes, this is not patience. This I thought is understanding. We are living with this society. We could understand. We can understand what happening. The people, a lot of human, they are when they are suffering. We thought women are suffering because of men. Sometimes women they have problem with other women. The dowry harassment, every mother-in-law is and sister-in-laws making problem with the daughter-in-laws because of the dowry system. We have, our country is having that kind of system. The women also affected the male-dominated society because of the male-dominated society. The thoughts, they are the feminist. We are thinking men are doing all the things. The women also affected by this kind of thoughts. Women, my mother is always forcing me go inside the home, sit inside home, don't go outside. Like the women also affected. They not they could not thought about the freedom, about the patriarchy society. Then I could understand. When I wrote a poem about my sanitary napkins, I can write that poem. I'm happy about the poem, but all the readers are happy about the poem. But my husband and my mother-in-law, they said, we are living in this society. We are facing the problems. The people are teasing us. What kind of woman you are? What kind of wife you are? Wife, like the people are criticizing my husband, my mother-in-law. They are also facing the problem. The problem is the patriarchal society only. We could not help single people. We could not change single people. We have to live with the people. We have to understood the people. We have to work for changing this community, the thoughts, everything. That is the problem. I don't want to hate single people. I don't want to do against them anything. But I want to, they have to change, but we have to work for change the society, the thoughts. That is not a change. Nothing do. That nothing do.
And you haven't got any bitterness about all this. Your
Yes,
medium is just writing.
Yes, it is. But I don't want to show for them against anyone. But I can write. This is my only one solution. I can whatever I want write, but they can't stop. Yeah, that's only enough for me.
Okay. From the last 2 or 3 decades, we are talking about women empowerment. Women's participation in politics paves the way for gender equality. Policy measures like reservation for women in Panchayat Raj, that is local self-government body, are being taken to build the capacity of women. However, after almost 2 decades, we see that women have remained underrepresented in the politics. What do you think about present scenario of women's participation in the politics in South Asian countries? As a politician who seeks social justice, do you think the social and cultural norms are major obstacles in the progress of this marginalized lot? What do you think about it?
Yes,
And how do you face it?
women, we have to get more power, political power. But men always not allowing us. This is still happening. Panchayat Raj system, 33% reservation for women Rajiv Gandhi implemented. First Tamil Nadu only implemented in 1996. Dr. Kalangin, he only implemented that. The lot of women, we came out from the home, from the kitchen. We have to do a lot of work. Women only understand the people issues, water issues, Panchayat Raj, Panchayat, what is the problems in Panchayat, rural issues, no? Panchayat, only water and road and small things. Women only could understand water issues. Always water is women issue only. You know about that. Men nothing doing about the water issue, but she only suffered, she only think about that, she only carrying water from outside, everything a women issue. No? Then all the women Panchayat leaders, they are working this kind of small issues, women issues. Now 50% increasing. The Panchayat Raj system is changing everywhere. 50% reservation for women. When I was as a writer, I published my first poetry collection 2000. You know, family not allowing me write poems, citing my poems, and I should not go out. I should not. At that time only I took pen name only. No, then 2001, my Panchayat reserved for women. My husband came to me. Can you see the election? He only asking me because he is man, he could not stand the election. He wanted a puppet, he wanted to use me. He asked me, can you? Then I said, okay, I'm very happy. I said, okay, I can. Then I signed the nomination paper. Then next day, my husband family, they took me every village. Before I never go out. Okay, can you imagine? Before election, I never came out from the home. I didn't give my name to the publisher. I never give my photos for the book. A lot of people asking me interview. I hid my identity that time as a writer. When I enter in the politics, my face, they wanted to show my face. I wanted to meet people. Then my family and my husband took me in the car, in the jeep, in the van. I went out every village. I was campaigning everywhere. My face, photo everywhere in the posters. Totally change happened that time only. I won the election. After that, everybody knows Salma is writer. See, this is Salma. Everybody knows, all the Tamil Nadu. First, one of the women for serious literary person who stood the election, she won the election, she is Salma. Everybody knows that time only. I gave a lot of interviews, Indian Express, Family, Hindu, everybody came for the interview. I was popular that time. Because of the power, my family, my husband, everybody after that accept my writings, and they don't care about my writings. They don't scold me, they never scold after that. Why are you writing like that?
But are you observing any change in political scenario as a leader? Have you?
But every party, they have an agenda. My party also have agenda. 33% reservation we have to give for women in assembly or parliament. But the parliament, every time women, when the issues taking by the politicians, Congress, other parties, they're not allowing the bill, passing the bill, because all the men, they have fear on women. They don't want to share the power with women. That's why still we would not get 33% reservation in parliament and assembly. The central government, every time Congress is taking the bill, then the Achilles Mulayam Singh Yadav party or Lallu party, they against that bill, they came out, that time our party always supporting this bill. Rajya Sabha already our MP Kanimali, she raises this issue that implemented in Rajya Sabha. But Lok Sabha, because of the other political party members, they don't want to give the power. They don't want to share. That's why still women we not get representation in the parliament and the assembly. Recently one issue was there in the parliament. Women marriage age now 21
Yes.
years. That time the committee was formed by the parliament. Only one single woman, 30 members in the parliament committee, only one woman member.
Oh.
They say about us, okay. But on that committee, 30 men is 39 men, only one woman is there. How can get? And this is the problem. This society, male-dominated society, everywhere, religiously, culturally, we are always against women. That's why we could not get power in the assembly or parliament. We could not enter. This is happening still. It's very sad. In ASEAN, I think other Pakistan or Bangladesh or some other country, Afghanistan, they are better than us in the parliament. They have better than us. Members are there. Women members are there.
Are you encouraging women to introduce themselves to politics?
Of course. The power only change our life. We need political power. That's why women, we have to enter in politics in the 50% Panchayat Raj. Every woman, they wanted to enter the politics. They can. It's easy. In the assembly or parliament, we could not win. But Panchayat Raj, easy Panchayat elections are small voters, little small places. We can enter, we can win. It's easy. But women should do enter in politics.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. And your statement is personal, is political. Is your agenda also?
Writing also political, no? Every single word we are writing is political.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. The last question, Salma. You long for the transformation in the society. You sincerely wish to bury the discrimination based on creed, caste, and gender. And moreover, you challenge the patriarchy. At the end, what message would you like to give to the listeners to create such a society?
Yes, we are equal. Only one word I have. When a society is thought I'm a caste, upper caste or lower caste, or some you are a big person, I'm a like we are always same kind of discrimination is having this country, especially particularly women are equal, but we never teach the society, schools or colleges and families, we never teach this discrimination in our family with our children. We have a caste system. The caste system is whatever we go, we could not find. Only in India we are having this system. This is always the problem of us. The discrimination, we have to fight against that. Social justice we need. Equality only, the freedom for all of us. Freedom, we want freedom. Equality only can give it. I think so. Yeah.
And you are demanding equality to transgender community also because you are working for them.
Yes, we are working for us. Tamil Nadu is first formed board for them. Social welfare board formed a new board for them. There are a lot of people. Recently, our chief minister one commission he announced, that is a planned commission. It's very powerful commission. One of 5 members is there, 1 member is transgender. Can you imagine?
Wow.
Yeah. Yes.
Clap.
Our Chief Minister Stalin announced it. Now she's working on the field planning commission member, as a member.
Wow,
Yeah.
great.
Yes. In the other state, he could not find because of this is Periyar lad. Yes.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It has been a great time, dear listeners. We are listening to Salma from last half an hour. In the short time, she has expressed her thoughts about freedom of expression, her keen sense of society, its problems, and the way of transformation, her concept of rebellion. It's really an illuminating talk for all of us. Salma, thank you for inspiring us to do our utmost to make a change in society. You have said once and always, writer can rise above politics, but writing itself is an extremely political act. Yes, Salma, true. Thanks to the organizers and all the listeners. Thank you again, Salma. Be with us always.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
This whole interview was very inspiring to all women. Thanks to you, Sonali, and thank you very much, Salmaji. Thank you. This session is over.
आता कोण ब्रेक बद्दल सांगणार?
Yes, next session is for the paper presentation, and it will start after 10 minutes. So there is a break of 10 minutes.